Asterisk, the planet Zereth 5 was burning. The war had turned its skies black and its cities to dust. Explosions shook the ground as human soldiers fought alongside alien allies against a deadly enemy called the Krysian Swarm. Sergeant Jack Kellen ran through the broken streets of the alien city. His armor was scorched, his face dirty, but his eyes stayed sharp. He wasn't looking for enemies anymore. He was searching for survivors. Scan says there's one life form inside. His wrist device beeped. He stepped over rubble and broken glass, pushing aside a collapsed wall. Behind it, in a dark corner, was a tiny shape shivering, hiding, a little alien girl. No older than 5, she was covered in dust, her small gray-blue skin marked with scratches. Her big purple eyes looked up at Jack in terror. She backed away, but her leg was hurt. She couldn't move far. "It's okay," Jack said softly, kneeling. "Down. I won't hurt you." The girl didn't answer. Her lips trembled. Her body was shaking. Jack slowly removed his helmet and smiled at her. "What's your name?" She blinked, then whispered, "Leary." "Hi, Leary," Jack said, his voice calm and kind. "I'm Jack. I'm here to take you somewhere safe." "No." "Mama said don't go with strangers," she whispered, curling up tighter. Jack looked around. The building could fall at any second. The enemy swarm was moving through the area fast. He didn't have time. "I'm not a stranger," he said with a small smile. "I'm your hero, remember?" Leary looked confused. Jack laughed gently and picked up a small cracked mirror from the floor. He held it toward her. "See? You're the princess, and every princess has a hero." Leary finally gave the tiniest smile. Jack reached out his hand. "Come on, little princess, your hero's here." She hesitated, then grabbed his hand. He carried her out as the building behind them collapsed. Dust and fire filled the air, but Jack shielded her with his own body. She clung to him tightly, burying her face in his shoulder. He took her back to the evac point. The medics checked her. She was safe now, but Leary refused to let go of Jack's hand. As they waited for her transfer to a shelter ship, she sat beside him silently, still holding on. "You'll be okay," Jack said gently. "They'll take you somewhere better. Clean bed, warm food, and no more bombs." Leary looked at him, her eyes big and full of something deep, something innocent and pure. "Will I see you again?" Jack paused. He knew the answer was probably no. After this war, he'd be sent somewhere else, but she looked so hopeful. He smiled, ruffling her little head. "Tell you what, when you grow up, I'll marry you, deal?" Her face lit up like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. "Really?" she whispered. Jack laughed. "Yeah, but only if you remember me." "I will," she promised, squeezing his hand. A few minutes later, the shuttle took her away. Jack watched it disappear into the clouds, and then he forgot. Years passed. Jack fought in 3 more wars, earned medals, and finally retired. He settled on a quiet farm on a peaceful planet. No more battles. No more blood. The war-torn cities and frightened children faded into memories he didn't want to keep. But somewhere out there, across stars and systems, a young alien girl had grown into a young woman, with one promise burning in her heart. Like fire, she remembered. She remembered the man who saved her. The warmth of his hand. The sound of his voice. The silly promise he made. While others called her strange or broken, she held on to hope. She whispered it to herself every night, like a prayer. "When I grow up, he'll marry me." And now she was coming to find him. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It began with the jingle sound of bells, asterisk, asterisk, but Jack Kellen didn't own any. He woke with a start, heart thumping. The sound was distant, hollow, echoing through the cool night air. Not metal bells. Something unnatural. It rang once, then again. Then silence. Jack sat up in bed and listened. Boom. The ground shook. Seconds later, Alarms blared from the old scanner tower at the edge of his farm. Red lights flashed across his wall panel. Unidentified object. Crash detected. Sector 3. Distance 0.7 miles. He rubbed his eyes and muttered, "Great. Another drunk cargo pilot?" Pulling on his coat and boots, Jack grabbed his rifle more. Out of habit then fear, and stepped out into the cold, dusty night. The stars above shimmered like frozen diamonds. His farm was quiet, except for the distant crackling of fire and a strange blue glow coming from beyond the hills. He followed it. 15 minutes later, Jack stood at the edge of a small crater, still smoking, with pieces of alien metal scattered around. At the center was a shimmering silver pod, half buried in dirt, shaped like a teardrop. The hatch creaked, then opened slowly with a hiss. A soft thump. Something stepped out. She wore a long cloak that dragged behind her. The figure was slim, graceful but clearly hurt. One arm clutched against her side. Her hood covered her face. Jack raised his weapon carefully. "Identify yourself." The figure looked up. Slowly, she pulled back her hood. Jack froze. She was alien, yes, but beautiful in a strange way. Gray-blue skin, long silver hair, large glowing purple eyes that looked at him like she already knew him. "You," she whispered. Jack blinked. "Do I know you?" The woman stepped closer, limping slightly. "You promised." He narrowed his eyes. "Promised what?" She touched her chest, right where a glowing pendant hung beneath her cloak. "You said, when I grow up, you'd marry me." His heart stopped. That voice, that phrase, that look. It hit him like lightning. "Leary?" he said, stunned. "The little girl from Zeroth 5? She nodded slowly. "I came to find you. I kept the promise." Jack lowered the rifle, his hands shaking. This had to be a dream. That war, that moment, was so long ago. He never thought. "Leary," he breathed. "You're alive?" "Yes," she said, her voice soft but full of power. "But they hunted me. They called me broken, dishonored. I had no one, no home, no name, just your words." She took one step forward, then collapsed. Jack rushed to catch her before she hit the ground. Back at his cabin, he placed her gently on the bed. Her body was cold, her breathing shallow. He lit the heater, wrapped her in a blanket, and gave her water. She opened her eyes slowly. "You're safe now," he said quietly. She looked at him with a weak smile. "I knew you'd keep your word." Jack sat beside her, trying to understand everything. "You remembered that promise after all these years?" Leary nodded. "It kept me alive." There was silence between them. Then Jack asked the question that had been burning in his chest since she arrived. "Why now? Why come all this way, after so long?" She looked him in the eyes. "Because I'm ready to be yours, Jack, and because someone else is coming, someone who wants me dead." Outside, the wind blew hard. The stars seemed to flicker, and far above them, hidden in the blackness of space, something else was watching. She was not the little girl he remembered. Jack stood by the cabin window, watching her sleep. The morning sun gently touched her face. Her hair, once a tangled mess of a scared child, now shimmered silver white in the light. Her skin gray-blue, and smooth, looked almost like polished stone, and her eyes, when they opened earlier, had years behind them, pain, strength, survival. But one thing hadn't changed. The way she looked at him, as if he was still her hero. She stirred, then slowly sat up on the bed. Jack turned. "You're awake," he said quietly. "I never slept deeply," she replied. "I dreamed of that day again." "Zeroth 5? She nodded. "The moment you joked about marrying me, that one silly sentence. It became my light in the darkness." Jack stepped closer, uneasily. "I didn't mean to make a promise you'd carry your whole life, but I did carry it," she whispered. "Through hunger, pain, and exile. Because in that moment, you gave me more than hope, you gave me worth. Jack sat on the edge of the bed, silent for a long time. Leary, he said at last, I didn't even know if you survived. I did more than survive, she said. Holding up her hand, a soft glow emerged from her palm, a strange alien energy swirling like liquid light. I became different. He stared. What is that? Power, she replied. Taken from my ancestors, learned in secret. Forbiddance. By my people. She closed her hand, and the glow vanished. They feared it. They feared me. And when they learned I was looking for you, they sent hunters. Jack frowned. So you've been running? She nodded. They called me unfit for bonding with a human. Said I would bring shame. They wanted me erased quietly. He clenched his fists. You were just a child. That's not shame, that's survival. Leary smiled faintly. That's why I came to you, Jack. Not just because of a promise, but because I knew you'd understand. He stood and paced slowly. Leary, do you really expect me to marry you now? Her eyes didn't waver. Yes, Jack blinked, surprised by her directness. You're grown, he said. You've changed. I've changed. I'm no hero anymore. Just a man with an old farm and older regrets. You're still my hero, she whispered. Even if you don't wear armor anymore. There was silence. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. Birds called in the distance. Then Leary said softly, I did not come to take your life, Jack. I came to give you mine. He looked at her dot, and in that moment, something inside him, something long buried, moved. Later that afternoon, Jack fixed her a warm meal. She sat at the table, carefully eating, as if every bite was still a gift. He watched her quietly. So what happens now? He finally asked. I stay, she said, if you'll have me. Jack chuckled softly. You crash into my land, nearly give me a heart attack, and demand marriage. You sure know how to make an entrance. She tilted her head playfully. I learned from humans. He raised an eyebrow. You studied us? For years, she said. Language, culture, emotions. I wanted to be someone you wouldn't be ashamed of. Jack looked at her, a strange warmth spreading through his chest. I'm not ashamed, he said. Just surprised, Leary smiled. I can work the fields. Repair your systems. Cook, not very well, but I learn fast. Jack laughed, the sound rough but honest. You don't need to prove yourself, he said. You already did. She looked down at her plate, voice soft again. Then, may I stay, Jack? He nodded slowly. You can stay. That night, as the sun vanished behind the hills, Leary stood outside the cabin, looking up at the stars. Jack stepped beside her. Looking for someone? She pointed to the sky. That's where they're coming from, my people, the hunters. Jack's jaw tightened. How many? I don't know. But I've seen the signs. He looked at her. Then we'd better prepare. She turned to him, eyes glowing gently. You'll fight for me? He smiled just a little. You came all this way because I made you a promise. She nodded. Double quotes. Well, he said, resting a hand on her shoulder. Maybe it's time I finally keep it. Leary didn't sleep that night. Not because she couldn't, but because she was afraid she'd wake up and it would all be gone. The cabin. The warmth, the human man who hadn't turned her away. She stood in the quiet hallway, watching Jack sleep in the chair by the fire, his head tilted, one arm resting on his old rifle. She smiled softly. He still protected her. Even in sleep. In the early morning, she stepped outside. The wind carried the cold, but it felt better than the cages she had once known. Far better than the long dark halls of her people's towers where she was called unworthy. Once, her name had meant something. Alai, daughter of the seer matrons. A child born during starlight eclipse. Her people had praised her birth. Until they discovered the truth, She was different. Too soft. Too curious. Too close to humans. And when she started learning Earth languages, wearing human clothing, and asking why love needed permission, her own family had her silenced. She was locked away, her books burned, her mind called sick, all because she couldn't forget the boy in armor who once saved her and promised her something no one else ever had, a future. Thought you'd run off again. Jack's voice came from behind her. Leary turned. He was leaning against the doorway, rubbing his eyes. I was remembering, she said softly. Bad memories? He asked. No, she replied. Just sharp ones. They stood side by side in silence, the wind blowing through dry grass around them. Finally, she said, Do you know what it means to be marked dishonored among my kind? Jack looked at her. I imagine it's not just a title. It's death, she said simply. Not always with blades. Sometimes just with silence. She looked at him now, her voice steady but low. No one would speak to me. No one would touch me. I wasn't even allowed to cry where others could hear it. Jack swallowed hard. That's cruel. To them, I had broken the sacred line. Emotion was weakness. Wanting a human? Madness. But I never wanted your world, Jack. I wanted... He was quiet. I memorized your face, she said. When I had no food, I thought of your smile. When I was cold, I remembered your arms. I escaped to that promise because it was the only thing that told me I was still alive. Jack slowly stepped toward her. I never knew. You weren't meant to, she said. But I crossed stars to find you. Because I would rather die as your wife than live forever as their ghost. The wind picked up, and in the distance, Jack saw a light in the sky blinking, hovering far too long to be natural. Leary saw it too. They found me, she whispered. I didn't think it would be this soon. Jack's jaw tightened. We'll deal with it, together. She looked at him carefully. Even if it means killing your chance at peace, he placed a hand on her shoulder. Peace is nothing if it comes from letting good people suffer. You came all this way because of something I said in kindness. Now it's time I show you what that kindness really means. She stared at him, and for the first time in years, her heart didn't feel like it was shivering alone in a cage. Later that day, Jack unlocked the old weapons chest hidden beneath the floor. Inside were the last pieces of his military life. A battered plasma pistol, a solar blade, his old unit badge. A torn picture of his squad. He handed the blade to Leary. Do you know how to use one? She smiled. I've trained every day since I escaped. He raised an eyebrow. With who? She touched her temple. Holograms. And memories, Jack chuckled. Then I hope your memories are good ones. That night, as they fortified the cabin and installed old security drones, Leary whispered, Even if I die tomorrow, I have no regrets. Jack looked at her seriously. You're not dying. Not while I'm still breathing. She tilted her head. Why do you care so much? I'm just an alien. He paused, then said quietly, You're not just anything. Far above the sky, in a sleek black vessel hidden beyond the clouds, alien figures stared at a glowing screen. One pointed at Jack's face. Target confirmed. Human contact is active. Elimination authorized. Another voice, colder than metal, responded, Do not harm the human unless necessary. We only need the girl. The hunter's mask flickered with light. She is no longer a girl. The first shot wasn't fired. It was whispered. Give her to us, human, and you may live. The voice echoed through the trees like smoke, smooth, cold, and inhuman. Jack Kellen stood on his porch, rifle in hand, eyes locked on the three. Tall figures stepping out of the shadows, black armor, pale silver skin. No weapons drawn yet, but their message was clear. They didn't come to talk. Behind him, Leary stepped outside. Her eyes widened. The shade hunters. Jack didn't look back. Friends of yours? They were once temple guards, she said quietly. Now they work in silence. They erase mistakes. And I'm guessing I'm part of the mistake now? She nodded. The lead hunter stepped forward. Its voice was nearly a whisper again. The female broke sacred law. She belongs to us. Jack narrowed his eyes. She doesn't belong to anyone. Another. Hunter flicked its head toward Leary. She's corrupted. You can't understand our ways. Release her and return to your animals and crops. Jack raised his rifle. This farm has rules. One of them is, nobody touches my guests without permission. There was silence. Then, without warning, one of the hunters vanished teleportation blur and appeared just a foot behind Leary. Before it could touch her, she spun, activating the blade Jack had given her. Crack! Sparks flew as energy met armor. Leary's eyes glowed bright violet. Her cloak fell away, revealing sleek body armor beneath. She moved with speed that surprised even Jack. You will not touch him, she shouted, swinging again. Jack fired a blast at the other two hunters, forcing them back into the trees. The cabin's defense drones activated, launching pulses of plasma toward the intruders. The night became chaos. Leary danced through the battlefield with a strange beauty, every movement filled with purpose. Her blade hummed with alien energy, striking fast and clean. Jack provided cover, picking off attackers, shouting warnings, moving like the soldier he once was. Together, they fought as one. After minutes of battle, two hunters lay smoking on the ground, their suits crackling. The third, the leader, stood wounded, but still tall. It looked at Leary with something like disgust. You broke everything, Leary. Nay, your bloodline, your name, your future. I chose my own future, she said, stepping between it and Jack. The hunter's eyes flashed. He is nothing. No, she said firmly. He is everything. Jack walked up beside her, still aiming his rifle. You done talking, tin head? He said. The hunter tilted its head. You protect her even now? Jack didn't blink. She crossed stars for me. I'd burn this whole damn world for her. A long pause. Then the hunter dropped a silver disc on the ground, which blinked once and disappeared. Gone. Later, as Jack and Leary sat inside the half-damaged cabin, the fire crackled beside them. Did we win? Jack asked. For now, she replied. They will report this. My people will decide what to do next. He looked at her, wiping blood from his arm. Then let them come. Leary stared into the fire. Why did you fight for me, Jack? I mean truly fight. He was quiet for a moment, then said, because you believed in me when I'd forgotten how to believe in myself, and because ... Atka. He paused. Because when you looked at me tonight, I felt like a man again, not a soldier, not a farmer, just someone who mattered. Leary blinked. Her lips trembled slightly. You've always mattered to me. Jack reached out and took her hand. No more running. No more pretending it was just a joke from long ago. In the sky above, dozens of sensors watched from a cloaked alien vessel. A voice whispered, the human has chosen her. Another voice responded, colder, then we mark him too. Jack's fingerprints were glowing, not burning, not hurting. Just glowing soft blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat under his skin. He stared at his hands in the dark room, confused. And more than a little afraid. Leary, he called out. She was already standing in the doorway, eyes wide. I knew this might happen, she whispered. Jack turned to her. What the hell's going on with me? She stepped forward and gently touched his wrist. The glow spread, trailing over her hand like light finding home. You bonded to me, she said quietly. Without meaning to, Jack sat down hard in the nearest chair. I what? It's an ancient bond, Leary said. Rare, old, sacred. It happens only when one person puts another's life above their own, without condition. Jack blinked. So because I protected you? No, she said. Because you chose me with your heart. She knelt beside him. Now you're marked, spirit and blood. If anything happens to me, you'll feel it. If I die, he stopped her. Then don't die. Her lips curved slightly, but her eyes stayed serious. There's more, she said. Our bond is outlawed. If the council finds out, they'll see it as a threat. Jack narrowed his eyes. Why? Because they believe bonds make people weak. She stood. But I believe they make us strong, and now. So do you. Suddenly, the power flickered. Lights buzzed, then died. The hum of the defense systems faded. A cold wind swept through the cracks in the walls. They're here, Leary whispered. But not to kill. Jack grabbed his rifle. Then what do they want now? Outside, a new figure stood in the field. It wasn't a hunter. It was a tall female alien with golden robes, skin like polished glass, and eyes filled with centuries of knowledge. The High Seer, leader of Leary's people. She spoke without moving her mouth. Her voice echoed in both their minds. Leary, nay. You bonded with a human. You've changed the path of two worlds. Come face judgment. Or doom us all. Leary stepped forward. I will not run anymore. Jack followed. She won't face you alone. The seer looked at him. You are not one of us. But I am. Bound to her now, he said. So whatever happens to her, happens to me. The seer's eyes narrowed. Then you may both come. But understand this, if your bond fails the trial, both of you will die. They were taken that night to a floating temple in the sky, a place no human had ever seen. The trial chamber was cold and silent. Dozens of alien elders circled the room, their eyes glowing faintly. At the center stood a crystal platform. Jack and Leary stood together. Hand in hand, a voice boomed. This is not a trial of combat, but of connection. If your bond is true, it will protect you. If it is false, it will break you. Suddenly, the floor beneath them shimmered. They were pulled into a vision realm, a place made of memories, fears, and truths. Jack found himself on a burning battlefield, HFY again. He looked around, confused. Leary was there too. But she was a child again, crying, alone. Jack rushed toward her, but invisible walls blocked him. Fire rose around her, shadows whispered lies. You left me. You forgot me. You never meant the promise. Jack shouted, I didn't forget, I just didn't know. Leary's child form looked at him, eyes full of tears. Then prove it. He slammed his fists against the invisible wall. I'm here now. I came back for you. I'll never leave again. The wall cracked. The fire faded. Leary's form changed, child to woman, standing before him now, her hand reaching out. I never stopped waiting, she whispered. He grabbed her hand, and the realm exploded into white light. Back in the trial chamber, the elders leaned forward. The crystal platform glowed bright. Two hearts. One bond. Unbreakable. The High Seer looked away. The bond is true, she stood. That our people must change, or fall behind. Later, alone in a quiet garden, Jack and Leary sat side by side beneath alien stars. You passed their test, Jack said. Leary looked at him. We passed. He smiled. What now? She looked toward the sky. Now, the future begins. No one expected the human to kneel first, but there he was, Jack Kellen, on one knee, in the middle of a glowing alien temple, holding out a ring he'd made himself. Not gold, not diamond, just a small silver band carved from the fallen wing of the pod that brought Leary to him. I'm not a prince, Jack said, voice calm, steady. I don't know alien traditions. I don't even know how this ends. He looked up into her eyes. But I know I want to stand beside you until all of this ends, if you'll have me. The elders gasped. The crowd murmured. No one in recorded. history had ever seen a human propose to a daughter of the high houses. Not just that, to a rejected one. A dishonored, cast-out girl. And now here she stood, not broken, not small, but strong and proud. The woman who crossed galaxies to fulfill a promise. Leary smiled. "You don't need to be a prince," she whispered. "You already became my legend." She took the ring and slid it onto her own finger. The seers had no choice. The trial of bond had passed. The stars themselves had burned brighter that night. And as their ancient laws demanded, if two souls are bound across worlds, let them be honored, not hidden. So they sent invitations to humans, to aliens, to planets where Leary's name had once been spoken only in shame. Now it echoed with respect. The wedding was announced across 7 systems, and no one could believe it. On the day of the ceremony, ships filled the skies. Strange banners flew above the temple gardens. Creatures of all kinds walked together, curious, shocked, silent. Jack wore old military dress, cleaned and ironed by Leary herself. She walked down the glowing crystal path in flowing cloth that shimmered like starlight, and she carried no bouquet. She carried his old helmet, cracked, rusted, because that's where her story began. The seer leading the vows paused, then said to Jack, "Do you take this woman, who was cast out by our kind but lifted by yours, as your chosen?" "I do," Jack said without hesitation. Then to Leary, "Do you take this human, who once gave you words to live by, as your equal?" Leary looked at Jack and said softly, "I do. I always did." When they kissed, the sky shimmered. Literally. A strange ripple passed across the heavens. Dozens of ships above blinked their lights in harmony. The temple shook gently, not from war, but from peace. The galaxy wasn't ready for this union, but it had to accept it, because something had changed. In the following days, strange messages arrived, from alien factions once silent, from human colonies once divided. Some hated it, others celebrated, but one message stood out. From the United Systems Council, if a bond like this can exist, true and proven, then maybe there's still hope for all of us. That night, under 2 moons, Jack and Leary sat alone on their cabin porch again. No guards, no elders, just wind, stars, and the old sound of crickets. He leaned back in the wooden chair. "So, married to an alien outlaw, didn't see that coming." She laughed gently. "And I married a stubborn farmer who doesn't know when to give up." They looked at each other and smiled. Leary touched the ring. "Do you ever wonder, if none of this had happened, if I never came back, would you have remembered me?" Jack thought for a moment. "No," he admitted. "But I would have always felt like something was missing." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "And now?" He kissed her forehead. "Now I feel whole." Far away, in the dark of space, a single lonely drone sent its final message. The bond is complete. The war we feared may never come. And with that, the signal went silent. Back on the porch, Leary whispered something in her language, soft and sweet. Jack didn't understand the words, but he felt them. What did that mean? He asked. She looked up at him with glowing eyes. "It means home is not a place. It's a person."